Let's try this again. Welcome in, everybody. I'm trying to see if we're having a YouTube audio. Wait a minute. It must be a Friday. Welcome in, everybody. Yeah, I think we had a little YouTube studio conflict. We've got a lot of shows lined up, and it looked like two overlapped for today's date and time, and they are using the same stream key, and it went to the wrong one. So just had to resolve that. I was on and talking to you guys and had no idea you guys weren't seeing me. What are you going to do? It's February the 9th, 2024, and my name is Kerry Holzman, and today we've got a mini PC to review. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about this, but first I want to say that, first of all, thank you all for your patience as we work through that little technical issue. That was weird. We'll watch for that in the future. Note tomorrow, we can't have two shows starting on the same day. We need to make sure that when we have pre-prepared shows in our upcoming stream list, when we set those up, we pick a future date at random, and then I will adjust it as I'm ready to do the show. And so what happened is this was a last minute change, and I should have gone and checked that. I didn't know. I've never been in that position before. So I learned something new today. All right. Now, I want to say thank you to those who have contributed. A super shout out to our friend Frankie B with a very generous Amazon gift card earlier today. Thank you so much, Frankie. And let me give a shout out to our friends in the chat room who've already contributed. If I can pull up the right stream on my side, see if I can do that. I was actually looking at it, and I was watching your conversation, but apparently OBS was broadcasting to something else entirely. That's not at all confusing. So thank you to our friend Planet Cryos with a $5 contribution. He says his fiance is in for surgery right now to repair a toe going sideways. He said, I'm so glad I can watch today or until they call me. Well, I'm glad to hear that's a minor surgery. So welcome in and thank you for your support. Paul O'Brien with a €5 contribution joins us from Ireland. Nick Caffrey renews his membership. He's been a member now for 1 month and contributes €5. He said, here's my late fee. Yeah, turns out I'm the late one, huh? Thank you, Nick. Mark Gaines contributes £10. Mark joins us from Northern Ireland. He says, hello, Kerry, Marlena, and everyone in the chat. Welcome in, Mark. Thank you. There's our friend Buster. Peter Laycock joins us from Scotland. He contributes £10 and says, good evening, Kerry and Marlena, and everyone in the chat. All the best from Bonnie, Scotland, where the temperature in Edinburgh is 40 degrees Fahrenheit or 4 degrees Celsius, and it's raining. Cold and wet in Scotland. Yikes. There's our friend Gregory Howard with a $10 contribution. He says, hello, Kerry, Marlena, and chat room. Well, thank you guys so much. Thank you, Buster. Thank you, Gregory. Planet Cryos, Mark Gaines, Nick Caffrey. Did I say Paul O'Brien? And Paul O'Brien and Buster. Thank you guys so much, and all of you for joining us today. I had a different video scheduled for today, and I was going to review one of the many PCs we've recently been sent for review. But the problem is, right now, many people in China have a national holiday that goes on for about, when you include the weekends, about 10 days. They're celebrating their Lunar New Year, their Year of the Dragon, and it's a big deal. For us, it's 1 day, right? It's one evening. Well, I guess it's one day off. For them, it's a week off. So most of the Chinese companies that we work with that make these mini PCs, they're closed up for the next 10 days. So they basically, you may even see when you go to a website like Miniswarm, it'll say you can place an order, but we won't be able to fulfill your order until we're back at the office after the holiday, where normally they would ship out right away. So their websites are up and taking orders, but no work is going to get done for the next week or 10 days, depending on the company. As a result, I needed to make some last minute changes. So we have, there's a YouTube content creator. Well, there's several. There's one in particular I really look up to, I really admire. His name is Patrick, and his YouTube channel and website are called Serve the Home. And he recently moved his studio from Texas out here to Arizona, and it's right down the street. And he invited me over, and I went over there about a month ago when he first got the studio. And he's been trying to get me over there again. I've been really busy. In fact, the last couple of days have just been crazy. But he invited Mitch and I to stop by because he said, I won't even recognize the studio now. He's been at work putting it all together. I think he's doing this on his own, or he's got someone that helps from time to time. And he's still trying to use the studio as he's putting it together, while at the same time still doing the work for the website and all the other stuff he's got. So, you know, I really don't want to bother the guy. He's super busy. He's like, come on over. So Mitch and I jaunted over there yesterday, and he was right. I mean, that place is almost filled to the brim. I'm like, the studio looked pretty big. And now I'm like, you've almost outgrown it, you know, holy cow. So he's like, well, I got a lease, so I'm stuck with it. I'll have to make it work. And it's impressive. He's got some really nice production equipment, stuff I was drooling over. And he has some really cool computer equipment. And he was trying to give some to me because he is in the same position that I am. Once you're done reviewing it, what do you do with it? Some of this stuff clearly says not for resale, review unit only. You can't sell that stuff. So you can use it yourself, or you can give it to a friend, I guess. But he's like, here, do you want this? Do you want this? I'm like, I said, Patrick, I didn't come over here to get stuff from you. I wanted to see the studio and how things are going. And he's a super, super nice guy. And I said, you know, if you have any mini PCs I haven't reviewed, I don't want it, but I'd like to borrow it. And then I'll return it to you, and then maybe grab another one. And then if there's anything I have, you're certainly welcome to it. And he said, I have already got so much, you know, I'm scheduled out for the month. And I'm like, yeah, look, I just want to be able to return the favor. But in the meantime, I said, let me borrow this mini PC and you'll get it back. I'm not sure he even wants it back, but we both have the same problem. Like, if I keep it, then what do I do with it, right? Now, this mini PC is a bit older. This actually came out last year. So many people here on the channel are saying, hey, that's not available on Amazon. Well, here's what's happened. We never had a chance to review this. Asus, they just won't work with me. Maybe I'm not big enough. Maybe they don't like me. We have tried a half dozen times and we just don't get a response. So clearly they're not interested, but they do work with Patrick. So for whatever the reason is, after he's reviewed a product, he says, this goes on a shelf. And he's got a lot of shelves and a lot of product, and a lot of it is enterprise grade, big equipment. And he's a super generous guy. And I've got a link to his YouTube channel. I hope you subscribe to him. A lot of what he does is enterprise business stuff, but he also does home lab and, of course, mini PCs, which kind of cross over. They overlap into all those categories. So our channels do have a bit of overlap. And it's also pretty interesting to see some of the home lab stuff that people are doing, even though I'm personally not interested in doing it myself. I don't mind watching somebody go through all that effort. And then, of course, some really high-end business equipment. So it's a great channel, and the video quality is amazing. And he's always full of energy. So I can't say thanks enough to our friend over at Patrick at Serve the Home. And they produce more content on their website where it's written articles. They probably do 10 articles for every one video they do. So if you're interested in that, be sure and check out their website as well. I also want to talk about Acronis here for a minute before we get started. The folks over at Acronis have a support page I've talked about many times over at Reddit. And I can bring that up here on the screen because I really like that, and I wish more companies would do this, that rather than emailing the company or calling the company and waiting during business hours for them to return your message, you're posting a public request for help, meaning anybody can answer your question, and you're likely going to get an answer that much faster. And our friend Begowden, who's a representative there at Acronis, part of his job is to regularly monitor and interact with the Reddit support page there for Acronis. And so what happened is, the benefit of having it public is if you have a question and it's answered publicly, then someone else with the same question who does a Google search on it is likely going to find that thread and doesn't have to write their question and wait for a response. Somebody else already did. So it benefits the entire community to have that. Whereas if it's a private email between you and the company, that might have to be repeated hundreds of times for a commonly asked question. So to have it there publicly, where it's searchable, can get you the answer you want faster because it's already been done. Now, one of the other things that's the benefit of Reddit is you can kind of get a feel for what people want based on the comments you're getting, right? This may not always be recorded properly or noted properly by support. So one of those things is that people, and I've heard you here on the channel, some of you don't like this subscription model that Acronis went to. You want that perpetual license. And Acronis said, we're not doing the perpetual license anymore because it costs too much money. There's way too much in support costs. And the problem is once the perpetual license ends, the problem with the perpetual license is you'll get no support, no updates for all the new hardware and compatibility and performance and features that new versions offer. So what Acronis did is they said, okay, we're going to put antivirus and anti-ransomware in our product because threats on the internet are getting really, really aggressive and pretty complicated, complex. So scammers are getting better at tricking people and infecting files. Everything is advanced now. In the older versions of Acronis Trimage, they don't have any protections for this. Furthermore, they've improved the performance of Acronis. They've optimized the compression ratios and speed it takes. It's about 20% faster, they say, their current model than previous versions of Acronis. But because they've added this antivirus component to protect the backups, that antivirus has to be updated on a regular basis. And you just can't offer that for free, not indefinitely. If you remember, Malwarebytes had a lifetime license they offered, and it almost put them out of business because they soon realized that they were spending more money to give people, it costs money to send those updates out to pay for the bandwidth. It was costing them more money than they charged, and it was a continual loss. It was a never-ending loss that was only going to get worse. So what they did was they said, okay, if you have a lifetime license with Malwarebytes, as long as you leave it on that one computer, we'll continue to update it for free. But the minute you have to reinstall it or move it, it's no longer valid. Now that upsets some people, but look, if you were getting something for free and someone took it away from you, said, well, I paid for that. I got a lifetime worth of free whatever. And if you're really using that in the case of antivirus, you're going to get updates. It's not like you have to do anything. The software goes out and does that on its own. And you multiply that times, hundreds of thousands of users. It doesn't take a math wizard to understand how that company is going to be reducing their income and increasing their expenses. So when you have a perpetual license, it means the license is good for a specific period of time, so typically 1 year. And during that 1 year, you get your updates, but you don't get any upgrades. So if there's a new version, if it goes from version 6 to version 7, you would have to buy version 7. You don't get that for free. On a subscription, you would get that for free. Perpetual licenses cost more. And the reason perpetual licenses cost more is it's a one-time purchase that has endless calls for support. And the older the license is, the older the software is, the more likely a support call is. And at that point, you're not making any, you haven't made money on that in years. And while support's not offered, it's still, Reddit's free and everybody can use it. So all these questions start coming in, resulting in issues they're going to have, specifically running older versions of Acronis with newer hardware, newer controllers, newer storage devices that it doesn't recognize, larger capacities that it won't see, older versions won't see, and also some security issues. So Acronis has heard loud and clear that there are just some stubborn people out there that absolutely refuse to pay less for a subscription and have endless support and to support the company they like. I guess they want to see the company go out of business as far as they're like, it's like going to your favorite restaurant and wanting to get the food for free. If you really like that restaurant and you're getting the food for free and you're doing it over and over and over again, don't be surprised when your favorite restaurant doesn't exist anymore. So Acronis management said, okay, we get it. Some of you just want the perpetual license and you don't care. But we care. We want to make sure that you're having the latest protection. And we want you to have a good experience with our product. So what we will do is if you own an older perpetual license of Acronis and you never signed up for a subscription version, you know, if you're one of those people, we will offer you a 1-year perpetual license to the current version of Acronis. The price will vary depending on how old the current version is, how old the version you have is, which is going to be a few years old, right? Because they've been doing the subscription stuff for a while. And we're going to give you the antivirus updates for the year. However, when the year is up, you get no more support. You get no more updates, no more antivirus updates, but the product will continue to work no differently than any other perpetual license that goes out of its support window. On the one hand, I can see why they did this. And on the other hand, I'm just like, here's what you're going to find. When you look at how much a perpetual license is, and you look at how much a subscription is for pretty much any software offered, perpetual licenses are always more expensive because the support costs are higher. So even with higher prices, in most cases, companies lose money on a perpetual license because customers will, I mean, I have customers using Microsoft Word from 2003. And I tell them they shouldn't be using it, and they don't care. So until they have their identity stolen, and then they'll go crying to the media, and then potentially Microsoft will have to bear a story that's really not accurate regarding their software's not safe. And then Microsoft is going to say, you know, they were using obsolete software that shouldn't have been used, blah, 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 and around the wheel goes. So I think Acronis might be trying to hedge that by saying, look, to avoid any negative PR that might come as a result of you refusing to upgrade, but to continue to use an old version of Acronis, we'll make it available. So they gave in. So there's a Reddit forum post about this right here. And it's quite a long post. So I'm not going to read the whole thing out loud, but I will say that our friend Begowden from Acronis will be here very soon in the next week or two, and we'll talk more in depth about this. But if you have a current perpetual license, well, there is no current perpetual license. If you have an old version of Acronis and you've never signed up for the subscription service of any Acronis product, you may have already seen a pop-up offering you this offer. If not, you can log into your Acronis account at acronis.com and it should be there in your account. If you've never created an Acronis account, it's free. You just create it, you know, you use an email and password and put your product key for whatever Acronis product you bought, even going back 12 years, whatever. And then it stores that for you, so you never have to worry about losing it. And if you're eligible for the upgrade offer, it will give you the details, and the details will vary depending on how old the version is you have, right? So there's not one set price on this, but I think you'll find universally that the subscription's cheaper. You could, I'm going to guess, not knowing the prices, You could probably get 2 or 3 years of subscription for a similar price instead of 1 year of a perpetual license. But, you know, kudos to Acronis for offering this to people who, you know, absolutely refuse on the subscription, but still use a product they probably shouldn't be using, given today's advanced threats. So again, Bagad and I will talk more about that. And we certainly want to thank our friends over at Acronis for supporting us here this year and offering you guys 30% off any of the Acronis subscription products. So if you've never used Acronis, we have a walkthrough video. We have several, but if you watch the latest one, you could follow right along with us to downloading and making your first backup. So you can just follow click by click with us. It's a 30-day, I think it's a 15 or a 30-day free trial, and no credit card is required. So you can evaluate the software, you can make a backup. That's all free for the trial period. If you decide you don't like the product, but you keep your backup, restores are always free. So if you make your backup, you decide you don't like the product, but you keep that backup, and then 2 years from now, your system unexpectedly crashes and you go, oh, you know what? I made that backup from that software that I didn't buy. You can download whatever the current version of Acronis is for free. Of course, you've already used your trial period up, but regardless of a trial period or a license, it will always allow a restore, always. I think that's a pretty upstanding policy. I wouldn't have done it that way. I would have said you could always back up for free, but if you want to restore, you got to have a valid license. I talked to them about it. I said, I think this is a backwards policy. They're like, no, we want to make sure our customers can get their data back. We don't want to hold it hostage. I'm like, I get it, but you're probably losing a lot of sales. That being said, you know, having a 2-year-old backup may not be very satisfying, because you will have lost everything you've done in the last 2 years. But I'm just picking 2 years randomly, whatever the period of time is. Just the idea that you can restore for free regardless, I think it's a pretty generous policy. So again, I thank you to our friends over at Acronis for supporting us this year and for offering all of you guys 30% off any of their subscription products. Now, someone else that's supporting us is our friends over at Instant House Call. That's the remote software I use when I need to log into somebody's computer remotely to do a repair. It's not necessarily, let me put it this way. You can certainly use it for just regular remote access, but it has all these other bells, whistles, and features on it that are specifically designed for PC repair, right? All the other remote access software is just that. Some of it, like a lot of the free ones, won't let you do file transfers. They're pretty limited in what you can do. You just pretty much get used to the keyboard and monitor and the screen. Instant House Call, very inexpensive. It's a smaller company, so if you write with a product enhancement suggestion, feature suggestion, or even if you download the trial and you feel like you need more time, you haven't really made up your mind, you can ask them to extend your trial, and you're going to pretty much talk to the owner of the company. That's very satisfying. And, you know, so many times I email companies and I get boilerplate automated responses. I'm offended because I took the time to thoughtfully write out and send this email, and I just get an automated response that nobody could be bothered to put any effort into. It's the same response everybody else gets. It's just offensive. So knowing that you're dealing with a smaller company that's going to give you better attention and care more, and they're going to work harder for your business, and they're cheaper, way cheaper. So when I've got a customer who says, hey, I'm having a problem, can you log in and look at it? Say, let's go to Instant House Call. It's a very easy thing for them to download. I don't run through the struggles of other remote software where my non-technically educated customers understand what, you know, when I tell them to go to a website, they'll type it into Google search instead of going up to the URL. They don't know what a URL is. I have to explain to them where to go to click. Usually they just search for it, and then it's just getting that half of the remote software installed for some clients is the worst part of most remote software, but not with Instant House Call. It's so much easier. It takes that and simplifies it. And then of course, once I'm connected, well, then I can get the problem typically resolved. It's just that initial connection. And that's where Instant House Call shines. And also all of the little bells, whistles, and features that you might need when repairing a computer remotely, from restarting in safe mode, executing a Control-Alt-Delete, transferring files, some utilities and things like that for just regular maintenance and repair. But decide for yourself. Check it out at instanthousecall.com. Get your 15-day free trial. Everything that I endorse here as something I use myself. I use it in my business. I'm very picky. I don't endorse too many things here because most things won't meet my requirements. And we're so honored that not only do we see value in these companies, but they see value in us. And again, with Instant House Call, a discount just like Acronis specifically for you guys. So a shout out and a thank you to both Acronis and Instant House Call for supporting us here. And then of course, our friends over at VIP CDK deals, where you can get legitimate, legal Windows 10, Windows 11, Microsoft Office licenses at like 90% off the manufacturer's suggested retail price. Why would you pay 90% more than you have to? Everything's guaranteed. You've got a 30-day guarantee your license is going to activate. And I don't recommend you buy licenses or anything to use 6 months from now. Buy it when you need it, because when people call for support after 30 days, it's what scammers do. So it's really hard to tell a legitimate request for support from somebody scamming. So while the buyers are worried about companies scamming them, companies are worried about the buyers scamming them. Welcome to 2024. So if I'm endorsing it, I back it up personally. And if you have any issues whatsoever with any of the companies that I endorse, and you let them know and give them a chance to address it, and they fail to make it right, you reach out to me personally, because the buck stops with me. I don't know any other YouTube content creator that takes accountability and responsibility for what they endorse. As far as I know, I'm the only one who does it for third parties. Like, it's not my own merch, it's a third party. That's how confident I am in these companies. And it's the same guarantee I give to my customers when I'm actually using these products to service them. So why would I not offer the same guarantee to you guys? But decide for yourself. It's the best thing I can recommend is for you to determine if it meets your needs and your budget. So getting back to the mini PC, have I missed anything in the chat? Hold on a second. Let me just take a quick look-see. David Moore with a 10-pound super chat says, hello, Kerry from Poole in the UK. Hey, David, thank you for your contribution. And Planet Cryos, another $5 super chat, says, I think I'm going to be switching over to Acronis Cyber Protection after my Malwarebytes and MCSoft ends. I already use it for backups, so why not? Yeah, and you know what? You should test the antivirus capabilities of Acronis. I was recently at one of my customers' computers who got a virus. It's a really weird virus. Malwarebytes won't detect it, but it's blocking an outgoing attempt to connect to a website. Where's it coming from? Malwarebytes says, I don't know, I don't find anything. Windows Defender, I don't know, I don't find anything. MCSoft Emergency Kit, I don't know, I don't find anything. And then Acronis, just for the heck of it, I thought I'd try. And Acronis found a zip file that the customer downloaded that contained a virus unrelated to this issue, because whatever this is, we still don't know exactly what's causing it. But the fact that Acronis anti-malware or their antivirus found something, MCSoft, Malwarebytes, the paid version, and Microsoft Windows Defender just passed right over. That's pretty interesting. In fact, when Begowden is here from Acronis, we're also going to talk about the antivirus and how it compares with others. He wants me to do an antivirus test live, and I'm like, no. I am not running a virtual machine with viruses on it. It's too dangerous. But maybe if he wants to do that and share his screen with us, that I'll watch it. That's how confident he is and how good their antivirus is. But again, the best answer to your concern, if you're concerned, is it any good, is to try it, see for yourself. See if it meets your requirements. So let us know, Planet Cryos, when you do that, what you think of it after you've had a chance to familiarize yourself with it. Now, back to the mini PC. This PC was reviewed, and I've got a link to the review over at Serve the Home last year. As far as I know, I don't think they make it anymore. They might, but the technology moves very quickly. And since we're being restricted from the latest mini PCs because everything shut down in China for 10 days, I've got some other content that I'm going to review here. And I thought, Patrick has this older stuff that I've never had an opportunity to review. Let's take a look at it. And I want to look at it for a couple of reasons. One, I want to see in just 1 year how much things have changed. And what was funny to me is when I opened it up, it has an 8 terabyte NVMe. And I mentioned that to Patrick, and he said, oh yeah, I forgot that was in there. He's got so much stuff. I have one 8 terabyte drive. They cost about $1,000 after sales tax. I know exactly where it is at all times. So it's funny how, he's dealing with some really pricey enterprise Threadripper server stuff that's tens of thousands of dollars. And, oh yeah, that 8 terabyte drive. I said, well, don't worry, I'm going to give it back to you. But it was funny to me that he could just forget. Now, this was sold as a bare bones computer, meaning you have to put your own RAM and your own storage in it and provide your own operating system. Now, that means you could put on Windows, you could put on Ubuntu, whatever. I think when Patrick ordered this, he was under the impression that it would have a license code embedded in the BIOS. On a bare bones system, I've never seen a bare bones system come with a license code embedded in the BIOS unless it came with Windows. If it's bare bones, that's on you to provide it. So I wasn't surprised when he said that, but again, this is my bread and butter, and it's not his bread and butter. So in any event, this was also a year ago. It also appears when I open this up and show it to you, this is how I got it from Patrick. He never put the screws back in on this, but that's okay. It just snaps open and snaps closed. You really don't need the screws anyway. But when I initially received it, I'm like, where are the screws? It looks like it's supposed to have screws. Well, it did. And it also has a VESA mounting plate, and that's missing. All that's in the box is the power brick and then the power cable. So I think what happens is I think he has numerous employees, and it goes to one person for photos for the website. They get some product shots. It goes to another person perhaps for review, and it may yet go to another person for testing. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the process is. And I think through all of that, when it's all said and done, they don't need it anymore. So they just take it, put it back in the box, and somebody forgot to put the screws and the VESA mount back in here. So when this was purchased new, it did not come with RAM, it did not come with storage, and it did not come with an operating system, but it did come with a VESA mount and screws. So the way this opens is pretty neat. Let me bring this up to the camera and I'll show you. I haven't seen one open like this before. Now, this is made by Asus, and if you're not aware, Intel sold the license to make NUCs, the Intel NUC. They licensed it to Asus, so Asus can build and support Intel NUCs, but now they're Asus NUCs. Intel also made that a non-exclusive license, which means if another manufacturer also wants to build NUCs, they can negotiate that with Intel. So in the meantime, Asus was already making their own mini PCs. So it makes sense for them to pick up. Intel wants basically to shut that department down, but they're licensing it out. And this is prior to that happening. Now, just to kind of go over the front of it here, we've got, trying to focus. We've got our USB Type-C, a Type-A, headphone jack, audio jack. Looks like a hard drive LED, which is nice to see. This is our power button. Nothing on the sides. And then on the back, we've got HDMI. I wish this would focus. HDMI DisplayPort, and that looks like it's interchangeable. You see the way that's cut out? We also have another USB Type-C, 2.5 gig Ethernet, 2 more Type-A USBs, and then a barrel-style power connector. Now, what's interesting is if you go back and watch Patrick's review on this, and I encourage you to do that, and then watch my review on it, and watch how our review styles are very different. So I'm not going to bother testing the noise. One of the reasons I won't test the noise is it's so variable depending on the environment that it's in and the person's ability to hear who's using it. So if you're in a big, empty, hollow, echoey room, it's going to seem louder. And if you don't have very good hearing, or you have very sensitive hearing, whether or not something is loud is very much a subjective perspective, unless it's excessive. So I think it's a waste of time to talk about it. I also think that you need to be realistic. If you're somebody who really obsesses about fan noise, don't buy a powerful computer. The more powerful it is, the more power it uses. The more power it uses, the more heat it's going to generate. The more heat it's going to generate, the more aggressive the fans have to be to cool it. Now, this machine is a 15-watt processor. That means this costs pennies a day to run it. So if you live in a country where electricity is really expensive, the total wattage on this, when Patrick tested it, he didn't pull more than 30 watts from the wall in total. And you say, well, then that'll be too slow. Well, no, because it's got 8 cores and 16 threads. And that's compensating. And it's actually quite impressive. When you consider the low power, low heat, that means you're going to have low fan noise. And you add all these cores to make up for the difference in the frequency. And you end up with a machine that's very, very capable. Now, when Asus released this, bare bones, it was $529 1 year ago. And then when you add your own RAM and your own storage and your own operating system, you're at least at $700. Now, today, I think you can get a lot more for your money. But I want to show you how this opens because I thought it was really very unique. I got no instructions either. I'm sure it came with some instructions. But you see here, it says push. So if we take that and we slide it, it just opens. Now, normally there would be screws that would prevent that. But you know what? It locks in place. You really don't need the screws. And inside, it looks like the folks at Sabrent sent Patrick some RAM and storage to test. And he just left it in there. So that is an 8 terabyte Sabrent NVMe. This is only a Gen 3, by the way. I'm not sure if the NVMe is Gen 3, but the socket on the motherboard is Gen 3. And then he put 2 16 gig DDR4s in there for a total of 32 gig. So he equipped this really well. It's got an Intel AX200, which is Wi-Fi 6. So remember, it is a year old, and you can see, you know, now we're going to start seeing Wi-Fi 7 built on. We saw a lot of Wi-Fi 6E last year. We can run up to 3 monitors back here with HDMI, DisplayPort, and that Type-C USB. We can put that out to, you can get a USB-C to DisplayPort or HDMI adapter cable and feed another monitor. So you have 3 monitors running off of this. It's a 90-watt power brick, but you know, it's only going to consume like 30 watts, so really low power. Let's plug it in and see how fast or how slow it is. I made some notes watching Patrick's review, and it's only USB 3 Gen 1 all the way around. So it's very slow, a 5 gigabit per second USB, which he was a little disappointed. It's about 4.5 inches wide by 4.5 inches long by just under 2 inches tall. So a little taller than some minis, but not by much. And yeah, I think that's the important stuff. Let's plug it in and see what the boot time is. What I did is I didn't want to have anything Patrick might have left on it impeding or having an effect on performance. So with his permission, I wiped it clean and completely reset it with a fresh install of Windows 11. And made sure I did all the optimizations, right? Uncle Carrie's Windows 10 optimizer, the latest AMD Adrenalin software, all the updates, all the drivers, just my typical everyday regular thing you see me do here all the time, so that when I test it, I can see consistent results across the board. And let's plug it in here. This is going to use a Cloverleaf style or a Mickey Mouse style power cable. And then I will turn this on. Fan is, you can barely hear the fan right now, but it will ramp up as the system, you know, if you push hard on the system. But I don't think it's annoying or overly loud. Let's go to our HDMI input so we can see what this thing is doing right now. And don't worry, I will restart it so we can see the actual boot time. So bear with me here just a second. I'll put camera 1 in the corner. It's already booted. So again, I want to emphasize this is a year old. So it may be hard to find one, but you probably wouldn't want one because for the amount of money, well, unless you find one used, actually, you might get a good deal on one of these used, now that I think about it. A lot of people who are on fixed budgets are looking at all this new stuff we review. And of course, when this stuff comes out, whatever it is, it's always pricey. And all the stuff that came out last year depreciates rather rapidly in many cases in this IT world. So you might look on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or eBay. eBay's a bigger shopping market. You know, there's a lot more sellers. Potentially there's a lot more buyers, but you might find one of these used or refurbished really inexpensively. Let's go over here. Let's see, I need to go full screen on my side. Okay, so first things first, I did not plug in a keyboard or mouse, did I? Probably gonna help if I have a keyboard and a mouse. Now the unit does have two, where is it? Hold on, I gotta look. Okay, I thought this had some USB 2. No, it's just USB 3 Gen 1 all the way around. So if it had USB 2, I would use the USB 2 ports for the keyboard and the mouse. But since it's only USB 3, just pick a USB port, doesn't matter which one. And what I'm going to do first and foremost is I'm going to just shut this down. And you'll get an idea of how long it takes to shut down. And then we'll fire it back up here as soon as it shuts off. Okay, it's off. Now I'm going to fire it up and you can time how long it takes us to get to the desktop. You ready? 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Now, last night while I was working on it, I did see there was a BIOS update available, and it is an older style text-based BIOS. You don't have the graphical user interface of a more modern BIOS, but it is UEFI. It is Windows 11 compatible. And if we take a look at the specifications of the system, go down here, right-click on the Start menu, go to System, You'll see we've got the Ryzen 7 5700U. They did make less expensive models using the 5600U and a couple other lower models that, of course, were priced less. At the time, this was the top of the line, which was why it was $529 in this particular product category. You'll see we've got the 32 gigs of RAM. You'll see 31.4 gig is usable, and that's because the onboard video is borrowing some of our RAM. We have Windows 11 Pro installed, version 23H2. That's what I put on it. And if we look in the device manager, right-click device manager, we'll see that everything is happy. We've got all the drivers for everything, mostly just all installed automatically. Under network adapters, our Intel Wi-Fi 6 AX200 is identified here, and our Realtek 2.5 gigabit Ethernet LAN controller there is identified. Of course, under security components, that's how you know you're Windows 11 compatible here. And if we run Crystal Disk Mark, I'm kind of curious what this 8 terabyte drive will do. And again, I'm not sure if this model of 8 terabyte drive was Gen 4. Most of the 8 terabyte drives that I've seen have all been Gen 4. But it will be Gen 3 on the motherboard regardless, so I don't expect more than 3,600 on our reads or writes. But I also don't expect less than, say, 3,000. So see what that looks like. And you'll see here on the C drive, it shows 7,451 gigabytes for you. That's an incredible amount of space. I think that 8 terabyte drive cost as much as 2 of these mini computers. And he forgot it was in there. I wish I had those problems. Cracks me up. So Patrick said I could use him as a library. Basically, I can take some things out on loan and bring them back, and then take some more things. Remember what libraries were? I told him he's got so much stuff, he needs the Dewey Decimal System and a card catalog to find anything. So he's got some other stuff there that we might play around and explore that I don't normally do here on the channel. Because let's face it, the price is right, and it's unique content I haven't done before. So we've got that to look forward to. I mean, if the guy's going to offer to let me borrow some stuff and he doesn't need it, all the more content for us. And of course, if you watch his channel, then you'll already know what it is I'm reviewing. You'll know all about it because it'll be something he's already covered and something he no longer needs. But of course, I'm going to review it and show it in my style. Hey, Acronis joins us in the chat room. Welcome in. That's going to be Begowden. Hey, Begowden. Good to see you, my friend. Lugrinia joins us from Vermont. He says, be sure to thank Patrick for lending this community this mini PC and any other hardware for review. We appreciate it, or at least I do. Yeah, if you guys do that, that'll be super cool of you. He also loaned us an 8600G and 8700G AMD Ryzen processor. They came out on Saturday. He reviewed them on Monday. He's like, here, you want to borrow these? Yes, please. He's okay, you can't sell these. They say not for resale. These are review products only. I said, dude, I'm not even going to keep it. I'm giving it back to you. In fact, if you want, I'll build it into a computer and you can have the computer. No, I don't need a computer. I said, okay, I don't need these parts either. But I do want to build, make some content with them. He's like, here, take it. He's like looking around for stuff. Let me see what else I can give you. It's pretty funny. And I said, you're going to have to let me give you something back. I can't just keep taking stuff. Anyway, he's a super cool dude. And his channel is really good. And he's really good at what he does. And I was really impressed with the professional studio equipment. Blows mine out of the water. Nick Caffrey says hello to Acronis and says he's a happy customer with all his backups automated. Look at that. How cool is that? David Martinez says, thank you, Carrie. I built 2 computers 2 years ago and they're still working good. Well, I hope you'll get at least 8 years out of them. You'll probably find the computers that you build are likely the best computers you'll ever own. That's the general conclusion most people come to. Far better than any pre-built you'll ever buy. I do hear this fan ramping up just a slight tiny bit. I was looking at refurbished computers on Amazon, and I saw somebody was selling some old Dell desktops, and they had stuck like gold glitter on them, like a vinyl sheet that turns the black computer into like this sparkly gold or sparkly silver. And they said it's an i5 like quad core CPU, but they wouldn't say what CPU it was other than Core i5. And I looked all over the reviews, and the reviews are all positive. And you know, it's an older machine that's refurbished, but how old is it? Well, when it told me the RAM was DDR4, that's all I needed to know. Be careful if you're buying used equipment, if the price is too good. In this case, if you would buy that machine, it's going to come with Windows 10. It's not going to be Windows 11 compatible, and it likely is going to run great for you right up until Windows 10 support ends in October of 2025. And then what are you going to do? Because you will have just bought the machine and owned it 18 months. And then it's going to be, you're going to have to do something with it. You have to put Linux on it or get rid of it or take it offline or potentially get yourself infected. So just be aware of that. When you're buying refurbished, you really need to know what is the generation of CPU. If it's older than an 8th gen Intel, it's not going to be Windows 11 compatible. So likely these were like 3rd generation. These were super old, but they were also a little over $100. But at the same time, you could get a mini PC with like an N100 processor that is Windows 11 compatible for probably right around the same price on the low end and $200 on the high end. And now you've got a machine that's good with Windows 11. It has a warranty, you know. And so if you're buying an older machine, don't buy it too old. Couple of years, and you go more than 2-3 years, you might as well not buy it because you'll just be right back at square one. Unless you're doing like a home lab thing and you want a box for experimenting and you just want something cheap you could break. That's a different story. If you have any questions for Acronis, they are in our chat room right now. And feel free that if anything's on your mind about the software, the Acronis software, they are here to answer your question. And that man, he knows more about Acronis than anybody I've ever met. So I am sure he'll have an answer, and the right answer. Now, looking at our final results here, we've got 3,448 on the reads, sequential reads on the top left, and our sequential writes are at 3,000. So that is typical Gen 3 performance on the higher end of Gen 3. And then if we look at the C drive, we go over here, right click and go to properties. We can verify we have 8 terabytes here. Don't pay attention to the numbers on the right because these are calculated differently. We want to look at the number here, this number, and that is 8 terabytes of NVMe storage. Ah, that makes me so happy. All right. What else can I tell you about this? Asus makes these little PCs. They make a number of them. And so if this one's not available anymore, it's because they've moved on to newer tech. Why would you want to buy tech from a year ago, right? Why would they want to continue selling it? So we will likely cover some more Asus Also, there's a company called Simply Nook, and they sell some pretty high-end mini PCs, but they're also around $1,000. So if you think this is expensive, just wait. But the reason I mention Asus has other makes and models is because they vary across the price range of budget, from entry-level machines to higher-end machines. Some, offering the AMD Ryzen RDNA 3 graphics for better gaming experiences, and some for better business experiences. And so you can be sure and check out their current catalog that's up to date at any time. Or you can either go to Asus's main page or just simply type Asus Mini PC there at Amazon and just take a look at what's being offered. Now, let's see if anybody has any questions for me about this PC that I haven't already covered, and I'll do my best to provide you an answer if I know the answer. I want you to know that even though this machine is a year old, you could fully expect the same 8-year lifespan out of it that you would if this were a full-size desktop. So a lot of people, when you're watching these YouTube videos, you're accustomed to seeing only the latest and greatest, and everybody quickly forgets about what used to be the latest and greatest. But I assure you, last year's latest and greatest is still good today. It's just going to cost you less money if you can find one for sale. So keep that in mind. Let me go back to camera 1, full screen. Here we go. Better get my glasses. I think 2024 is going to be a good year for mini PCs, because the mini PCs that I have received so far this year, I've never been so excited. I'm not excited very often about some of these. It's another black box. It's another, budget build. But I'm telling you what, there's an upcoming Geekom A7 I cannot wait to show you. Oh my gosh, it was like if I could design a mini PC, this would be how I would design it. That's how good it is. We have some upcoming minis forum PCs that are going to blow your mind with how much power they've packed in such a small package. Well, I think that's true of all of them, quite frankly. I'm getting so impressed with just how much you're getting. The Geekom and one of the minis forum they sent me are stock shipped out with 32 gigs of RAM by default. Are you kidding me? That's amazing. Yes, please. Understand that a lot of times manufacturers don't do that because it raises the price of the machine. But when you sell a Windows 11 computer with 4 gigs of RAM on it, it's going to be a dog. I don't care what processor it's got. So yeah, you paid less for it, but at what cost to your time and your sanity? So it's nice to see the opposite being offered now as standard too, right? Don't alienate any of us. Offer the better stuff on the higher end machines, the better equipped higher end machines, and then offer the budget stuff to keep your price down for that crowd. Gary Tatum sends a $25 Amazon gift card. Well, thank you, Gary. A reminder again over to our friend Frankie B sent a very generous Amazon gift card. We certainly can't thank you enough for that extreme generosity from Frankie B. Peter VZ joins us. Is it from the Netherlands? And he contributes €1. Thank you, Peter. Scott says it's very nice that Patrick over at Serve the Home is able to loan some things to share with everyone. Thank you. Right? Let me tell you something. When I went over to see Patrick's studio, I didn't think I was going to leave with anything. It's not why I went there. And he's like, do you need a NAS? Please tell me you need a NAS. I'm good on NASs. Speaking of NASs, I recently ordered a QNAP from Amazon, a 2-bay QNAP. And they're normally like $550, which I think is overpriced. QNAP and Asus store. I don't know. I just think they're really expensive compared to, say, Synology or TerraMaster. But that being said, there's pros and cons across all these manufacturers. I have issues with all of them. The QNAP, when I was looking at this, I was very interested in it. And they're not sending us anything. They never have. And Patrick has some stuff, but it's all rack-mounted stuff. So it's not what I'm interested in. However, somebody returned this QNAP to Amazon, and it was $325 being sold by Amazon Warehouse. And I keep telling you guys, when you're looking for product, see if it's available from Amazon Warehouse. Because if it is, it's still guaranteed with free returns for 30 days, just like a new product. And sometimes it's significantly marked down. Other times, not so much. I mean, I've seen it where they're only taking $5 off. If it's only $5 or $10 or even $20, I'll just buy the new thing. Why take the risk of having to return it, maybe? So this was almost $200 off, I'd say. So I ordered it. And on a lot of the Amazon warehouse stuff, there's a bit longer of shipping. You don't get it in the normal super fast. Like this took 4 or 5 days. That's fine. To save $200, I can wait 4 or 5 days. So it shows up and it's like brand new, except somebody left a hard drive in it. One bay was empty and the other, let me show you this to crack you up. Now, I don't know if the customer who bought it put this drive in it and they were so upset that they sent it back. They sent the QNAP back. Or if somebody at Amazon that does product testing on returns, maybe this is a drive they use for testing. It wasn't formatted, so it didn't have any data on it. But look at what was in this. Let's see how many things you can find wrong. It's 14 years old. No, 12. It's 12 years old. It is not a NAS designated drive, meaning this is a desktop drive. It's not intended to be put into a NAS. So if you're buying a $550 NAS, don't take your old drives and throw it in there. You're not going to have a good experience. And I'm wondering if that's why someone returned this NAS. I am super excited to review this NAS with you because the only QNAP I've reviewed so far is that NVMe QNAP, which is $600. And then when you populate it with NVMe's, you still have a pretty paltry amount of space you can use compared to what you can do with a 2-bay or 4-bay for half the price. So I put a couple of 22 terabyte drives in it and I set it as a RAID 1. In fact, it defaulted to that automatically. And when you set up a drive, your first time you're setting up the array, it does this thing called synchronizing the drives, and that will, it's doing it right now. It's been doing it since last night. That will run depending on the size of the drives. So in my case, I have 22 terabytes. That's likely going to be finished either late tonight or tomorrow morning. So I put it in the other room and plugged it in. You don't have to plug it into the network. Once you get it set up and it's synchronizing, I turn it off. I move it to the other room so I don't have it on the bench. And I just give it power. And when I turn it on, it continues synchronizing where it left off. And I can tell because the hard drive lights are blinking like crazy. When it's done, the hard drive lights will be either steady or off entirely. And then I'll just push the power button in, it'll properly shut down. And then I'll be able to schedule a video so I can show it to you. So it's got 2 3.5-inch bays and 2 NVMe bays that can be used 4 different ways. You can use the NVMe slots as a cache for smaller files that get frequently accessed. You can use it to extend your array so that you can combine or create separate arrays. You can use it to move frequently accessed files, regardless of size, onto the NVMe, and it moves it off of the slower hard drive onto the faster NVMe. And then there's one other thing it can do. There are no included heat sinks, however. Like the QNAP NVMe NAS comes with heat sinks. This one doesn't. So if I'm going to put NVMe's in there, I will get ones that have heat sinks on them. There's room, thank goodness, for a heat sink. Anyway, I'm really excited to show it to you. It's got 8 gigs of RAM in it by default, which is pretty unusual. 2.5 gig networking ports. It does have Wi-Fi support if you want to plug a Wi-Fi dongle into it, but it'll be slow as a dog if you do that. You know, Synology removed that ability because it was creating too many bad experiences for people with slowness and reliability. In any event, I'll be keeping this QNAP. I mean, for $325, you know, that's a really good deal. And then back over to some more stuff that I borrowed from Patrick. I want to show you this because I think it's pretty neat. First of all, this looks like a regular AMD box, but if you look on the back here, cannot sell this, right? A lot of products that are sent for review for manufacturers cannot be sold. And Patrick likely got this a week or two before it was released publicly. So there's like an NDA you sign that we're going to send it to you early so you can do your review, but you're not allowed to publish a review until a certain date. And if you agree to that, they'll send you the product and they don't want it back. And usually AMD will send you a motherboard and RAM, everything you need. I think he said they didn't give him any storage. So then he used all that and he's got this bare board. He goes, here, do you want this? I'm like, well, again, I would like to borrow it from you, but no, I don't want it. I'm going to bring it back. So that gives us another build we can do. So what I'll do is I'll disassemble it and then we'll build it here on camera because it's just a bare board. He never put it in a case or anything. And he can't remember if he left storage in it. So I'll prep that and we'll do an 8600G build. That was not on our schedule. But what is on our schedule is we are doing an 8700G build using a Johnsbow case and a Johnsbow cooler, liquid cooler, which I had to order from South Korea. They don't sell it here in the United States. So even though I said my goal was to reduce the number of builds this year, I've already got 5 builds scheduled. So that didn't work out the way I thought it would. But I love, don't get me wrong, I love doing the builds. What I don't like about it is how much they cost. And then I end up sitting on them for a long time before I sell them. And so when I sell them, I'm selling them for less than I paid. And it's a financial loss. So if I can go borrow stuff over at Patrick's and then bring it back to him, that is so much better financially for the channel, because he's in the same position I am. Once we make the content, we're on to making the next content. The difference is he only makes content like twice a week, whereas I make content sometimes every day. So, when I say making content, I'm referring to YouTube content. He's making a lot of content for his website, servethehome.com. So he doesn't just do the YouTube videos. And he also travels all over the world for all these different conventions and expos, whether it's Germany or Paris. He just recently went to the football stadium to look at the servers and everything they use there. Anyway, check out his channel at Serve the Home. I think you'll like it. Give him a thumbs up, give him a subscribe. He was in our chat room. He joined us during the Project Zero build, and it was really cool to see him in there. And he wasn't feeling well that day, and so we gave him a good distraction. And it's always neat when somebody you like likes you back. I guess that's all I'll try to say. All right, let's see. You guys have any other questions for Acronis? Nick Poverman wants to know, when are we going to see the solution to the HP? So I have that HP computer. It's sitting right down here. And I am trying to make a point that all these know-it-alls online that always claim that they had the answer after I've shown it will come out of the woodwork and say, oh, I already knew that. I'm giving them an opportunity. So far, most of the suggestions have all been identical. And I'm looking for different suggestions, completely different from what's been offered. And if I've got to wait a year, then I'm going to wait a year. I'll wait as long as it takes until I feel like I'm getting my point across. But rest assured, that computer is right there. I'll go pick it up and show you if you don't believe me. And because this is a lesson I'm trying to teach, this is not, I got some stuff on top of that. I feel like some people dismiss these lessons, and I'm trying to find another way. I'm trying to find another way to make it indisputable. I don't like it when people challenge me when they don't have all the facts, or they don't consider, or they just make stuff up. So in this way, we're doing this in real time so we can better convey this concept of the information, the reliability of the information you're getting online from complete strangers. And I can't tell you, well, I can tell you, every single repair video I have shown has ultimately led to no less than one person, and usually several, going, oh, I knew that the minute you got started. Whatever the solution was, they already knew that. Oh, as soon as you told me that was the problem, I knew that was going to be the solution. Well, where were you when we were live with it, right? Where was this knowledgeable person? Beyond that, when you go to Reddit or you go to other websites looking for support, there's a lot of bad support suggestions out there. Some very irresponsible suggestions that are more ritualized than they are logical. You know, you put your right foot in, you take your right foot out. Why? Because that's what fixes it. Well, why does that fix it? I don't know, but that's what I did, and that's what fixed it. I'm just trying to help you. That's their thing. I can't run my business that way. So I'm making a point, and when we get there, we will revisit it. All right? So I appreciate the question. Nick Poverman said he wants to see some remote support from your company tied into one package. You know, does Acronis have a remote support? I think they have a remote management, more on the enterprise side, I think. It's a good point. He says he wants it for IT people like me so I can remote into another computer and deploy a backup over a network as well as patches. So I want to say, and you know, we'll let Acronis answer that officially. But when I was at the Acronis, their summit meeting they had in Miami before the pandemic, was that 2019? They were already offering remote management, but it was not on the consumer side, it was on the business side. And then I haven't followed up with that in the years since, so I'm not sure where that's at. And Acronis says, yes, you need to look into Acronis Cyber Protect Connect. Ah, there we go. And he provides a link to it. Ask and you shall receive. Look at that. I told you he'd have the answer. Where are we out of time? Oh, we're still good. Steve McCure says, could the not for sale parts for review be given away? No, in the sense that the problem when you give away those parts is the potential for a warranty or support request. So somebody may forget it was given away as a review unit, or somebody may have false expectations and then turn around and write nasty things about the company. Also, sometimes the review units vary slightly from the final product, and those companies don't want them out in the public. They basically want you to keep it for yourself or to destroy it. Those are the two conditions. You cannot sell it, and they really don't want you to give it away because they're afraid that the person's going to have a problem with it at some point who you gave it to, and they're going to reach out to support, and support's going to say, we can't help you. And then they're going to get tugged off, and then they're going to write nasty things and reviews all over the internet. And, you know, no good deed goes unpunished. So in general, when you receive a review unit, it is yours to keep. And of course, if you give it to a family member or somebody who you know is going to reach out to you personally, that's a different thing, you know, as far as they're concerned. You're keeping it for yourself. But no, to send it to a stranger, no. Mm-mm. And likely the punishment, if that happens, and then somebody's calling for support, and they clearly know from the serial number that that unit should not be in the hands of a consumer, they know who they sent that unit to, and they likely won't be sending you anymore. They don't need that hassle. So that's why it's done that way. You'll notice a lot of companies will do that with display models. You're like, will you sell a display model? No, we have to destroy it. We have to. And then, of course, they have to prove they destroyed it in order to write that off. But that beats selling it for cheap and then having a pissed off customer who's got a problem with some display unit that, you know, wasn't new and had perhaps, it could have even been a display model made differently than the model people buy. So for example, I've had a mini PC here that had a 1 gig Ethernet port, but online it said it came with a 2.5 gig Ethernet port. And I said to Minis Forum, I said, is there a typo? Did you send me the wrong thing? And they said, no, you got a pre-production unit. You got it before it was available for sale. And while we were in production, we found that we can basically change it to 2.5 gig for no more, no added expense. And we didn't have to retool a factory or just changing a chip. So we decided to, at the last minute, to make it 2.5 gig, which, you know, is a sales point, right? Why would you send me something not as good as the final product? But on the other hand, if the final product comes out and then you get it for review, well, it's already been out. So how do you deal with it if you're a manufacturer? What you do is you make sample products that are prototypes. And you send the prototypes to trusted reviewers under the condition that they don't publish the review until the day the product is released. And that way, people can buy it that day, having watched the review that day, right? So it's fresh on their mind. They'll be motivated to buy. If you show the review a week early, they might forget. And it also gives everybody who's given a sample the opportunity to be the first at the same time. There's no favoritism there. So don't assume that the products reviewers get, especially when they're marked as not for resale, are the same products that you're going to buy. There's often little design changes that occur, and those products are sent to reviewers under conditions that have to be met. So that's how that works. But if I had one of these units and I gave it to my mom or something like that, that's a different story. But yeah, for the most part, you keep it or you destroy it. Now, anything that we buy, when we use the contributions that come in here at the channel and membership money, when we go and buy stuff from Amazon or Newegg or eBay, wherever we're buying from, potentially we have the ability to give that away or sell it at our discretion. Acronis was also talking about this ability to deploy backups remotely. He says that when it comes to being able to deploy a backup remotely, that's the approach many of their managed service provider partners are in fact using. So what Nick is asking for, they're already doing. Very cool, very cool. And like I said, I remember them talking about this in 2019. I just haven't followed up with it because I don't use the software that way myself. In fact, for the most part, I barely scratch the surface of Acronis's capabilities. I primarily use it for my own personal backups and for cloning during hard drive upgrades. That's it. Sometimes I've used it for data recovery, and well, Acronis doesn't promote their product as a data recovery tool. Depending on why the drive isn't working, I have in the past successfully been able to recover customer data by doing a sector by sector clone onto a healthy drive and physically being able to pull the data off. And of course, they don't promote it. It's kind of a off-label use. But since I already have the product, I got nothing to lose by trying it, you know? Paul O'Brien contributes €2. He says, this is Garfield's contribution. And another €2. This is for the mouse and his next meal. I don't know what that means, but thank you, Paul. Ryan contributes $1 Canadian. Thank you, Ryan. And Peter with another euro contribution. And Billy Zoo with $5 Australian in Super Chat. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Billy. And of course, Ryan and Paul. Appreciate you guys. Acronis is still talking about this feature. He says, managed service providers don't even have to send techs on site in some cases. They just tell the customer to plug in the USB drive that was provided earlier. And once the drive is installed, the Acronis software kicks in and starts doing the backup. I do something very similar with my customer backups. I don't do system imaging because I'm trying to back up the NAS. So for that, I just need file synchronization. And while Acronis can do it, for me, for this backup, I use different products for different projects to accomplish different things. So I will use file synchronization to go to a USB drive that's plugged into one of the machines. So typically, the main person in charge of the office, not the boss, but like the boss's right-hand man, if you, or right-hand woman. And I will leave a USB drive connected to that. And then I automate the synchronization to just to follow any changes that are on the NAS onto the USB drive. And then I go out there once a month and I swap the backup drive. I take it out, I plug another one, and I take that drive home. And that way, if the building catches fire or is burglarized, or if something wipes out their data with ransomware, I mean, there's 1,000 different things. A pissed off employee deletes everything because they're angry. I have a copy off site that's no more than a month old. Now, they can do that more frequently if they want to pay me more, but we've never needed it. And then if they have a simple file deletion, they have the on-site backup, which I can connect remotely and recover. And that's all I've ever had to do is use the local backup. That's why we have the local backup. It's fast. But on the other hand, if we didn't have a backup or if we weren't keeping it updated, they would have had several situations in the years that I've been their MSP where they would have permanently lost data. And so it turns this potential crisis into no big deal, really nothing. One time, customer called me on a Saturday and they said, I can't believe I just deleted the Word document that I came in on the weekend to do this work. And I just deleted it. And I even hit the yes when it confirmed. I don't know what I was thinking. Can you get it back? And in this case, the NAS has a recycle bin. And all I had to do was remote in. And the recycle bin is administrator access only, and simply restore the file. It's 2 clicks once I'm logged in remotely. And I did that with the customer over the phone. The whole thing took less than 10 minutes. I said to the customer, the file should be back now. And she's like, oh my gosh, it's like exactly as it was when I saved it. It didn't miss anything. Yeah. Oh, you saved my life. Thank you so much. So then, you get on with your life. But if that file was gone forever, I'm sorry, you're going to have to recreate the work all over again. And that person's Saturday is going to be a lot longer than they initially planned. And you likely aren't going to do it exactly the same twice, right? It won't be exactly identical. So in this case, even if it didn't happen, it wouldn't have been the end of the world. But for this person, they didn't want to be there to begin with. They certainly didn't want to have to start over from scratch. So It turned out to be simply no big deal because either the recycle bin or the backups have it. And I can't tell you how many times that saved a customer because, quite frankly, it's easily forgettable. But you know what isn't easily forgettable is the trauma when you've lost something permanently, or if you've lost a lot of stuff, because then you can multiply that times how much stuff you've lost. And you won't soon forget that. It's extraordinarily traumatic for most people. And yet restoring from a backup, it's no big deal. And it's easily forgettable just how close you were to the edge if you didn't have that backup. And that's why I'm such a big fan of Acronis, because, you know, you can open up an Acronis image file as I demonstrated, and you can just pull a single file out if that's all. You don't have to restore the whole image. You don't even have to open the Acronis software. As long as the Acronis software is installed, you just double click on the TIBX file that is your backup, and it'll open it up as though it were a drive letter. You can scroll through the folders and copy and paste out of it. One way you can go out of the backup file back onto your drive without having to load the Acronis software or reload the image. You can just pull a single folder or a single file, multiple files and multiple folders. No differently than opening a zip file. It's pretty darn cool. David Graham says, you always miss mine. Look back. You might be contributing while I'm in the middle of talking in the camera, and then it scrolls by. And then when I'm done talking and I look, you might already be off the list. But my YouTube studio should keep a record of all of it regardless, but sometimes that doesn't work. So let me go back and take a look, and because if I missed you, I probably missed other people as well. Let me go all the way back up to the beginning. So I mentioned those and those. Yeah, covered it. Dustin Fuller. Yeah, I think I missed Dustin. Thank you, Dustin, for your $2 contribution. He goes, here's a little something for the channel. Well, thank you. There's David Graham, $2. He says, Carrie, this buck's for you. Right on. Thank you, David. And then Paul O'Brien contributes €2. See, if I missed one, I probably missed a few. So I appreciate you bringing that to my attention. Okay, then that's where I got, that's the first one I saw here was the one from Paul O'Brien that says it's for Garfield. And then Ryan in Canada with $2 Canadian says, I'm having poutine for supper. Great Canadian dish. Gravy and French fries. It sounds like it's going to be very heavy in the cholesterol and delicious. Ian Gooch contributes £10. Ian says, good evening, Carrie from London. Cheers, Ian. David Graham contributes again, $2. He says, this Sunday, who's eating pizza? The Super Bowl Sunday, right? It's kind of a pizza and wings day. And Planet Cryos with a $5 super chat said she's out of surgery, his girlfriend, or his fiance, and doing well. By the way, like always, Acronis is awesome. Thank you, Planet Cryos. And then thank you, David and Peter and Billy and all of you for supporting the channel. Appreciate you guys very much. Steve Multiversos contributes €1.50. Right on. Thank you, Steve. Hey, there's Mitch Morrison joining us. I mean, I see somebody saying hello to him, but I don't see him yet. I'm assuming he's in there. Usually he pops in with a dad joke. Thing One joins us, says good afternoon, and from a sunny Cape Cod. All right, welcome in, Thing One. Oh yeah, there he is. There's Mitch. I am far behind in the chat that's been going on. Yeah, Mitch is in there. All right, well, I'll check the phone one more time, and I think we're just about done for the day. Just want to check to see if I missed any more. Ah, yes, Mortant. Our friend Mortant sends a $50 Amazon gift card. He says, here's 50 bucks for the channel. Have a great weekend. Right on. Thank you, Mortant. And Abdul Patel with $7.77 says, which brand of mini PC would you recommend, including today's Asus mini PC? Would it be an Intel or would it be AMD of all the mini PCs you have reviewed? Well, Abdul, thank you for the contribution and for the question. It depends on what the need of the PC is. Are you looking for something small? Are you looking for something for gaming? What's the primary use of the PC going to be? Are you looking for something within a certain budget? Are you looking for something that has a certain expandability? Typically, the lower the budget is, the less expandable, the less likely, for example, you could add RAM or storage if the machine is these entry-level, cost-conscious machines. Is it something you want to game on? Is it something where the size matters? Is it something that you want to have RGB lights on? When it comes to probably just the overall best mini PC, regardless, it'll do all of it, I would have to say the Tank 03 is one of my favorites currently. It's also the single most expensive mini PC we've ever tested. What are the odds? But I will say the upcoming, we've got a review coming up on the EM780, which is a little tiny PC that packs a whopper. It's a punch. And again, it's going to be on the pricier side of things, but it's super tiny. You can even power it through USB-C, which is so cool. And you can do AAA gaming in moderate settings on it. Same is true with the Geekom A7. Once again, you know, we're still up around an $800, $900 price range. Now, if you take gaming out of the equation, you know that Cyberpunk PC that I looked at that has the crazy RGB and cool case design? I think that's really a neat looking PC. And it's, you know, right around a $400, $500 price range. And it'll do some very, very light gaming, or better yet, no gaming at all, quite frankly, but you could do light gaming on it. And then when it comes to like budget stuff, looking at many of the N100 models from Intel, or looking at any of the Ryzen 3 models from AMD, if you're looking at something that's really, really low priced, there's some real bargains out there for machines that are great for just regular web surfing, checking the email, paying bills online, everything but gaming essentially, or video editing. You would do anything too intense on that. So asking me what my favorite is, I mean, I've got a favorite for each type of category and each kind of use case. There's not a one size fits all, other than I would say the Tank. But you could also buy 3 or 4 regular mini PCs for the price of that one Tank that we've got. But there's a reason why it's the Tank, and it is probably the single most powerful machine of that size that we've ever tested. But, you know, you look at machines from Ace, Magic, Camrui, Minisforum, Paladin, Geekom, Asus, and we review them here so that you have the information to make the decision that's best for you. And because I don't know you, it'd be very difficult for me to tell you what you're going to like. And I don't know your budget, and I don't know what expectations you have. So I hope you watch the reviews. And then if you're interested in a specific model, don't just watch my review. Look for other reviews and look for like Amazon reviews. And if possible, I recommend, if you're uncertain, buy it from Amazon so you have that 30-day return window. But again, thank you for the contribution and thank you for your question. Oh, and I have deployed a couple of these in businesses, and in businesses we don't want the RGB and we're not playing games. Like this one here would be great in a business environment or in an environment with somebody older who's not interested in playing games. Gaming is getting more and more expensive as a luxury entertainment option. And so video cards are the most expensive I've ever seen them in my life. That's why you're not seeing me do, you're not seeing video cards on this channel, because quite frankly, they're costing as much as the whole computer. And then that reduces what content I can show you. And I also think our audience here in general are people 40 and over. And I think most of you are not gamers. However, and I think that's why you're here. A lot of the YouTube content that's out there now is this enthusiast gamer content. There's a lot to choose from. And so when you want to move away from that, then you talk about like Serve the Home, or you talk about Network Chuck or myself. And there's Doug Betts, of course, and Planet Cryos, and our friend Jim KJ3, and all have channels. If you want to get away from that gaming nonsense, well, it's not nonsense. If I was 30 years younger, I'd probably be totally into it and maybe would have the expendable $1,000 to drop on a graphics card, plus the additional money and time to buy and play the games. But the older I get, the busier I get, and the more responsibilities I have. And because I'm self-employed, if I'm playing games, I'm not helping customers and I'm not earning any money. I'm doing the opposite. I'm spending money. And the game I like to play at my age is, what's wrong with this computer? I like solving that. And how many people can I help today? Is it possible for me to help more people today than I helped yesterday? That to me is a game. And the difference is I don't pay to play that game. That game plays me to pay it. I find that game so much more rewarding because the results of that game make a difference in the real world. So that's how my mind has changed. Now, that's not to say I don't play games, but when I want to play a game, I want to play a real game. I want to bring up Galaga, Donkey Kong, and I've shown you before these arcade machines. In fact, I've got a side project where I'm building another arcade machine, and I'm going to share the choices I have in building that and show you the quality of the different games. The boards they can do this now are really small, and I've got a number of them to introduce you to. And I'll be able to output the feed right into the capture card. So it'll be like the video games right on your own screen from the arcade. So I can't wait to show that to you. Because for me, video games are all about that controller. First of all, standing up. We stood up to play video games. And the controller for each game, you had the joystick and the buttons. Those were set a certain distance apart, and they were differently configured for each game. So I don't want to load it up on MAME and use a keyboard. No. Sitting in a chair. That is not how we did it. I don't find that fun, and I don't find it similar. It's not. If I can't stand up and play the game with the right controller, it's not the same game. Abdul says he's liking the Asus one. Well, Abdul, keep in mind that Asus has a number of different mini PCs. This one was offered last year. It's no longer available, but just look over at Amazon. You can type in Asus mini PC. We bought an Asus mini PC, and we ended up giving that with a contribution from Buster, our friend Peter Laycock. We gave that to a gentleman named Bill Wickens, which we see here in the chat from time to time. And that was a really nice mini PC. So the Asus build quality is very similar to the Intel NUC, but also Geekom and the Intel NUCs can also be the exact same parts and build and everything. So if you like the Asus, you might also like the Geekom. All right, guys, I think that is going to wrap it up for us for today. Thank you to Mara for doing our thumbnail and video notes today. And thank you all for joining us. Thanks to Acronis. I wasn't expecting them to hang out. That's really cool. We're going to have them on the show here very soon. Acronis says he's been playing the same game, which is helping customers and partners every day since 2010. That is so much more rewarding to level up by helping customers than to level up in virtual reality where it doesn't matter. It's so much more satisfying. Steve Merkier says, asteroids. All right. That'll wrap it up for me for today. Thanks again to Frankie B for that very generous contribution. Thanks again to Patrick over at Serve the Home for not only loaning us this, but some other stuff coming up. And hopefully even more, like when I take this stuff back, go shopping at the library. And thank you, of course, to everybody who has contributed the super chat and, of course, the PayPal contributions. We like to stay independent here and be able to provide you our opinions without worrying about any pushback from manufacturers who don't like what we said. Not that that really happens very often, but a lot of times they wouldn't want a 2-hour live video. They'd want to see something before it airs and tell us if we're allowed to air it. No, we don't have to play those games here because you guys support the channel. Can't thank you enough for that. It's an amazing community, and it's also a great place to go. If you're having any trouble at all, the community here is very knowledgeable and certainly happy to help you if you ask for help. So take advantage of it. And yeah, I think that's going to wrap it up. If I'm forgetting anybody, I'm just getting old and forgetful. What can, it's not on purpose. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much for joining us. And we'll see you again very, very soon. I might be broadcasting over the weekend because I got a lot of catching up to do. If the opportunity avails itself, and I think it will, just watch for the notifications. So if you're not subscribed, be sure and subscribe so you get the notification. And if you haven't already, hit that thumbs up button. If you like this content and you want to see more like it, that's what the thumbs up button tells the content creator. And it also tells YouTube that you want to see more content like this. So it's suggestions to you will be useful. All right, that'll wrap it up for me. I will see you all again very, very soon. And until next time, bye for now.